Highlands and Islands of Scotland are not for any other you can mention. For it's a beautiful country, with a people that are so kind and friendly and hospitable and humorous. The Sassenachs may not believe about the humour, but that is because they don't have the inner understanding. I'm not saying that every Highlander is a gentleman, or that every Highland woman is a lady, but I am saying that in the Highlands there is a big proportion of ladies and gentlemen in the best sense of the word. Now I am fast growing into an old man, a potach, as we say in the Gaelic, and perhaps already getting a little weak in the head. And perhaps that explains why it is that in the past 2 years I have taken to writing little books in which I reminisce at large on some of the incidents of those interesting years. In one of the books, I try to tell the story of the late Lord Leverhulme's attempt to change the people of Lewis from a crofty community to an industrial community. But it's always difficult to make the best of a story on paper. And I am glad to have this opportunity from the BBC for having a shot at telling the tale by word of mouth. To begin with, I'd better give a little of the background, and here it is very briefly. Towards the end of the 1914-18 war, the population of the island of Lewis would be about 28,000. Of these, less than 4,000 lived in the town of Stornoway, and more than 24,000 lived on crofts, about 6,000 crofts. Now, a stranger might not form a high opinion of Lewis Croft as an agricultural unit. And it is, of course, true that these crofts are usually too small to give a living to a family. But Lewis people can and do turn their hands to many jobs to supplement what they get from the land. They make quite a lot of money at fishing and twig making. Lewis also specializes in the production of a phenomenal output of ministers, doctors, teachers, bankers, and all grades of seafaring men who are to be found in every corner of the world. But, in common with all island peoples, Lewis people have a tremendous love of their homeland, and particularly of the little croft on which they and their forebears were born and reared. That little spot, which for them spells the magical words, Mogachi Vekhi, my own little home. It was to these homes that so many hundreds of Lewismen expected to return after the First World War. They had been given to understand that the score or so of large farms on the island would be broken up by the government and formed into a great number of small crops for them. But before they were demobilized, the ownership of the island had passed into the hands of the late Lord Leverhulme, a man of dynamic force and good intentions, if ever there was one, but woefully lacking in the inner understanding of what his croft means to a crofter. Leverhulme came to the conclusion that the crofts were uneconomic, that there were far too many of them there already, and that under no circumstances would he agree to have the big farms broken up into more of these uneconomic units, as he called them. Therefore, he would industrialize the community, and the Lewis men would become hands in his factories. These are the Lewis men hands. This attitude of the new proprietor fairly set the heather on fire. And when the lads came home, protest meetings were held in every school on the island. Strongly worded resolutions were sent to the local MP, the Board of Agriculture, the Prime Minister, and if I remember rightly, to the King himself. But government departments are proverbially slow to move decide as to what was the best course to take. So they clung to the top of the fence. And when it became clear to the lads that the resolutions hadn't brought about the desired result, they decided on more active measures. They would raid the farms and take possession. One large farm was raided 3 times in 2 days. What happened there was this. It was a farm of grass. The men from a nearby township, Connor, one morning met together and said, we'll go down with a number of pigs and we'll peg off crops for ourselves. And down they went about 100 of them, and they pegged off 30 crops for themselves. By the afternoon, they knew we'd go down to the next town, so we're back. And they said, it's all very well for the colonel, but what about us? And 200 of them down with a piper, with new pigs, and they kicked out the corn pigs, and they staked off a number of crops for themselves. It was late in the afternoon before the news got up to North Tulster, about 5 or 6 miles away. They were too late to come down that night, but they had a meeting in the school. Oh, a great meeting, I tell you. And they decided tomorrow morning what they would do tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, a little army of them went down, marched all the way, with 2 pipers and a drummer, with more pigs, and they kicked out all the pigs that were there and set off crops for themselves. And of course, every lot took the precaution of seeing that a report of this went to the papers. Of course, the raiding of the farms fairly set the cat amongst the pigeons. There was much fluttering in the dovecotes, believe me. And I, poor I, was ordered off to Lewis to be on the spot and to report developments. Indeed, it was little taste I had for the job. However, it turned out to be by far the most interesting experience in the whole of my official life. On the morning after my arrival, I had a call from Lord Leverhulme himself, a little man in physical stature, but of a dominating personality, and with a mesmeric power that usually resulted in him getting his own way. We had a little battle of wills in the first few minutes, and I was hard put to hold on to a shred of my own individuality. I never met such a compelling product in my life. But I must get on to the meeting with the raiders at Grass Farm, for that is the highlight of the whole story. Lord Leverhulme had arranged to meet the raiders at Grass Farm on a certain day at 11 o'clock. I arrived a few minutes before 11. There was a great crowd gathered there, men, women and children. Till at 11, along came Lord Leverhulme in his car, and with him his local factor. Lord Leverhulme referred to him as his land agent. He was an Englishman, and quite a nice sort of creature really, but terribly out of place, and scared of his life. I noticed he never said one word during the whole of the subsequent proceedings. Lord Leverhulme was nattily dressed in a blue serge suit, high collar, gay bow tie, and he had a bowler hat attached by a ribbon to his jacket. If he was scared, he certainly didn't show it. He walked right into the middle of the crowd. There was a little ring formed. Mary was in the middle of the ring. But then I found I couldn't see him. He was too little. And somebody shouted, "Get one of Peter Little's tubs." Peter Little was the farm tenant. And he used to make homebrewed ale. Very strong stuff, I knew. And he made the ale in casks, cut in two. So one of these half casks, the tub, was whirled round by a man from Lewis in one finger, as they do, whirled round, upended in the middle of the little ring, and up on the top went Lord Leverhulme. And then they cheered. Then there was a dead silence. Then he raised his hand and said, "Good morning, everybody." And some folks muttered, "Good morning." time the sun was shone on this island for a whole week. He said, I take that as a good omen. When two sensible people have a difference of opinion, they don't quarrel about it. They meet, discuss their differences face to face, with a view to amicable adjustment. That is what we have done today. That is why we are here today. What is our difference? You want the large farm to be broken up into small tracts. Loud cheers round the ring. Yes, certainly. Raise his hand in quietness. White is it? And I don't. David said, why don't I? Who am I? Assassin knack that comes up here and says no more cross. Let me tell you, I have already considered several schemes involving an expenditure of over £5 million for the development of this island and the seas and fishing round about it. You ask me, what can I do with £5 million here? Let me tell you. And then he proceeded. It was the most graphic word picture that I ever heard in my life. New roads, new house, electrification, improvement in the fishings, steady work, steady pay. Oh, it was a great story. And in 5 minutes they were cheering. And he was getting on well. But then there was a rude interruption. With a red whisker, a short, stockily-built man, with a cheese-coloured cap on, and a red whisker that stood straight out when he was angry, and it was very straight out now. He hit his right fist into his left arm, and he said, Shaw, Veru, Hattin, Shaw, Veru, Verum, Batach, Milvelar, Shin, Pitching on, two cows, but going the brother and Bria, a hit, no, she, some herring have wood, for Mr. Brainerd getting brass, don't know you head. There was a loud cheering to this. Of course, to me, it was just so much unintelligible sound. But when the cheering died down, he said, I am sorry, I do not understand the Gaelic language. But perhaps Mr. MacDonald, that was when he was another MacDonald, he said, perhaps Mr. MacDonald would be good enough to translate for me what he had said. And the other MacDonald did it very well. He was a great lad, a schoolmaster from the west end of the island. I knew he was an able man, but I never knew what an able man he was. He said, I'm afraid, Lord Leverhulme, it will be rather difficult to put into English what has been so eloquently said in the older tongue, but I will do my best. And he struck an attitude, and he struck his hands through, and he said, Come, men, this will not do. That honey-mouthed man would make us believe that black was white and white was black. We are not concerned with these fancy dreams that may or may not come true. What we want is the land. What I ask you now is, will you give us the land? No cheers for the attack. That's the way to talk. That's what we feel about it. And one voice said, it's not so bad for a poor language like the English. Silence again. Then he fixed, such a look on the interrupter. And he said, my friend, you have asked a straight question. I like a straight question, and I like a straight answer. And my answer to the question is no. It was a ground that told about just a minute. We're not here to quarrel. We're here to discuss our different points of view. I think I am not prepared to have the farmers broken up because I have better things in view for this island. I have schemes in view which will give a better, a happier life to every man, woman, and child on the island. Let me proceed. And off he went with his story again. And in 5 minutes, they were cheering him again. And more cheering. And then there was another interruption. In English this time. A long, lean-faced man with keen eyes and the appearance of a scholar. He was just a Louis Scrofter fisherman. I intervene in this debate for a few moments? Certainly. Thank you, my lord. Well, I would begin by saying that we give credit to your lordship for good intentions in this matter. We believe you think you are right, but we know that you are wrong. Lord Leverhulme, there is an element of sentiment in this opposition to your views that I am afraid it would be possible for your lordship to understand. But for that we do not blame you. It is not your fault, but your misfortune, that your upbringing and your offering and your experience are such that a proper understanding of our point of view is quite out with your comprehension. Spoken of our homes as orphans, and I have no doubt that to your lordship they appear to be very poor homes. But Lord Leverhulme, they are old homes, and I will venture to say, my lord, that you will find more real human happiness in those homes of old than you will find in your castle throughout the land. You have spoken of steady work and steady pay in tones of innovation, and I have no doubt that to those unfortunate people who are compelled to live their lives in smoky towns, steady work and steady pay are very desirable and necessary things. But Lord Leverhulme, we are as I have never been accustomed to any constraints though they appear to your lordship. We do not greatly desire them. We work at the crops in seed time and harvest, and at the fishing in season, and when neither requires our attention, we are free to rest and contemplate. I'm not saying that some of the younger people, the less thoughtful, may believe in your views, but the older people and the middle-aged, of whom I am one, will be against you, and we will oppose you with all our strength. Lord Leverhulme, you have bought this island, but you have not bought us, and we refuse to be the bond slaves of any man. We want to live our own lives in our own way, poor in material things it may be, but at least it will be clear of the fear of the factory then. It will be free and independent. I never heard of such in my own life. Well, there was a burst of cheering, loud cheering and no cheering, and I heard one voice say in Gaelic, "They have put up in here to the shin." What will the wee soap money say to that? And that name wasn't quite in disrespect. That's just a way they have of naming people appropriately in these islands. For instance, I myself, I used to teach butter making in the very early days up there, and they called me Ferry, and my lady assistant who taught poultry keeping, she was known as Calafing Hark, the hen wife. Well, I thought that Bottom Heapin could say nothing. It was such a perfect exposition of the whole position. But oh, he was a fighter. What a fighter he was. When the cheering died down, he gathered himself together and he spoke now in a quiet, slow voice. And he said, "Will you allow me to congratulate you? Will you allow me to say how glad I am you have spoken as you have spoken? I knew that sentiment lay at the bottom of your opposition to my schemes, but I confess I hadn't properly measured the strength of that element until you put it so clearly before me. Now, sentiment is the grandest thing that's hard work. It's the golden band of brotherhood that keeps our homes and country together. And we accuse thee of doing anything to injure that feeling. No, 1,000 times no. We are after the same thing, by different roads it may be, but we want a better time for the people of this island. You have admitted that the young people will believe in my schemes. You are right again. And he went to his pocket and he fetched out a whole handful of letters. And he said, "Here's a letter from John O'Donnell, Port of Ness. Dear Lord Leverhulme, I hear that you are building new houses such letters, mostly from young men, yes, but notice, the young men of today will be the men of tomorrow. Are we older people going to be dogs and mangers? Are we going to do something which would prevent them having a better time in this life than we have had? No, the people of this island are much too intelligent. Give my schemes a chance. Give me 10 years, and I prophesy that so many people will believe in them, young and old. Crop will be going to begging. And then, if there are some people still who prefer life in the croft, why, they can have 3 or 4 croft at least. Oh, said the interrupter. Do you mean that if that will happen, you will not object to us living on the crafts, those of us who prefer that life? Said, I give you my word now. Oh, well. And he turned to the crowd. And when you bring cash for Lord, he said, the man is speaking fair enough. Loud cheer for Lord Leverhulme. Loud and loud. And when the cheering died down, he knew where to stop too. He raised his hand and said, friends, this has been a great occasion. We had our difference of opinion. Like sensible people who met and discussed. We have arrived at agreement. You do your part, I'll do mine. This will go down as a red letter day in the history of the island. I knew the sun didn't shine for nothing this morning. Goodbye. And he went off to a round of cheering. And I tried to get off too. But they swarmed round me and said, look here, it's time we're planting the potatoes. Do you think we'll be getting the land soon? But I said, you don't want land now. You've come to an agreement. Doing well then. But I pretended. You don't want it now, I said. He's offered you a thing that you agreed. Oh, well, it's him that's wrong. And you tell him that from us. It's high time the potatoes were planted. And we'll plant them next week, whether we get the land legally or not. And you just tell him that from us. So I followed up into the shooting lodge, where he had gone to make some sandwiches for himself. He was cutting a loaf of bread, putting butter on it, and he was in green. And he said, come in, he said. That was a great meeting. That was a great victory. This is a great day. Ah, he said. Now I said, look here, Lord Leverhulme, I'm very sorry to be a sort of wet blanket or a cool water jug. But there's no change really, I said. They told me to tell you that we'll plant the potatoes next week. And he stopped, buttering the bread, and he looked, what do you mean? Well, I'm sorry, but that's what they told me to tell you. There's no change really. But he said, that's double-faced. What did the cheering mean? You heard it? Yes, I said, I heard the cheering, but you see, it's like this. The people of Lewis are very appreciative of a good argument. And the cheering was meant to show their appreciation of the good fight you put up, but nothing more. That is very disconcerting, he said. But I'm not beaten yet, he said. I'm going to win out on this. This is the finest fight I've ever had in my life. I'm going to win out. They're intelligent people. They must know which side their bread is buttered on. I'm sorry again, but I'm afraid you're an optimist. Who? He said. I've always been an optimist. I wouldn't get anywhere if I wasn't an optimist. I'm like the Irishman who was working at the top of a skyscraper in New York, and he lost his footing on the scaffold, and he was being hurled to earth past another Irishman who was halfway down, and the other Irishman said, hello, Pat, are you all right? Yes, the job was making it so hard. In a year or two, all the farm in the island had been raided. And in the course of time, the raiders were established there as crofters unto the crofters. Lord Leverhulme had lost the battle, probably the only battle he had lost in his life. And he was doomed from the island forever. If you ask me if that is something to be sad or to be glad for, I cannot say, or at least I will not say. A lot could be said in support of Leverhulme. But in these days of hustle and bustle and regimentation of our time and labour and lives and very souls, perhaps islands of Scotland, there are still some people who are free and independent and who can rest and contemplate when they so desire.